Good. So, a little about you. You were born in what year?
1993.
1993, and you were from a town in North Korea near the Chinese border?
Yeah, it's called the Haesan northern part of North Korea.
Which is what made it even possible to even think about escaping.
Yeah.
Had you been in the center of North Korea, it would be impossible because you can't move around, correct?
You don't even know what escape means. That's not in your vocabulary. So this is what North Korea does. They get rid of the words like liberty, love, and escape. So revolution, we don't learn about revolution. So we don't even know what that is. And this is why it's so effective when you control the language, because you remove the
really,
concept.
There's no word for escape?
No. So I did not even know that was a possible. When I was younger, I did not know. And then just one day when you're so starving looking at China, that's like, maybe I have to go there. But I did not know that was escaping. I only learned when I came to South Korea and America, they told me that was escape.
I want to talk to you about the vocabulary issue in a moment, but first a little more about your story. So whose idea was it to leave North Korea?
It was my idea, my sister's idea.
Even though you had no word for escape?
To go there, find food. That's what
we said. Oh, you wanted to find food.
We want to go there and then find food.
So were you able to see China from your house?
Yeah.
Oh, that you were that close?
Yeah, just one river across.
And it looked much richer?
I could literally someday smell it. Smell the ramen, the smell. And then Chinese kids, right, in North Korea, we don't have the running water or laundry machines. We go to the river, we wash our clothes, and we bathe in the river. So when I go to the river in the bay and wash my clothes, the Chinese side of kids come out, they are all well fed and round faced. They ask me hey there, are you hungry? And I was like, shut up, you fat Chinese, I'm not hungry, right? I had a pride for my nation. And then I would lie, we are not hungry. We have nothing to envy in this country. That's what the regime told me.
That's right, of course. You were told, if I'm not mistaken, that it's the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, we had to sing the song called Nothing to Envy. Because we had
nothing to envy.
Yeah, we had nothing to envy in this world.
Can you sing a little of it? I mean it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's 하늘은 푸르고, the sky's blue, our dear love loves us. We have 세상에 there's nothing to envy in this world.
Nothing to envy.
Yeah.
Except for food, life, freedom, family, beauty, love.
Yeah.
Okay. But otherwise, nothing to envy. I would change the words. Otherwise, I would put that in. Otherwise, nothing to envy.
This is the first song you learn from your mother's birth till you die, and you sing this song.
It's very, very difficult for most people to imagine.
Yeah.
I do. I've studied it my whole life. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I know. I have a deep sense of what you're saying, of what it is like to be there. So it was your idea, not your mother's idea?
No. It was really just we thought we'd be children. We could even easily go there, maybe begging some food, and then come back. And we just had no idea what even escaping was dangerous. We just knew there was guards preventing us to go there, right?
Yes.
So a lot of things were not thought. So North Koreans do not have the ability to think critically. So when I was there, they made us to believe that Kim Jong-il was starving like us. There's a Kim Jong-il, dear leader, starving, and I was crying on the New Year's Eve, please, dear leader, get some rest and eat food. And because I was worried about them, he is going to die from exhaustion. So when I went to South Korea, they're like, he's not starving. Look at him, he's a fat guy in the picture. He's the only fat one in North Korea. But in North Korea, you don't have the critical thinking ability, so I could not see. Even on TV, seeing him every day, I still believe that he was starving while he was being so fat.
Oh, is that interesting?
Yeah.
He is the only fat man
exactly.
in North Korea.
Absolutely.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Although he's now lost 40 pounds. Did you know that?
But still he's 200 pounds. And I'm like...
Well, why did he lose so much weight? Do you have any idea?
I recently heard it because he's so overweight that...
he just did it. He went on a diet or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But that is such an interesting point.
Yeah.
Poor Kim is starving too.
Yeah.
So what if he's 100 pounds overweight?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so how old were you when you had the idea of, hey, I got to get more food over the border?
It was around 13 because that's when the situation got really, really hard on us that we couldn't find really more food. And that's when I was like the last
So
thing
did you say this to your mother?
We did.
And how did she react?
I mean, she could not feed us.
Right. So did she say, good idea, let's get out of here?
No, she was not going to leave. My sister and I were going to escape, the two of us. And Mom
So did
and
she
my
say
dad
to
was
you,
there.
go ahead?
She said, like, yeah, but just be careful. And
Be
do you know-
careful, my
yeah.
God. Be careful.
Yeah.
This is not like a trip to Florida, where there are alligators.
But the thing is, like, in North Korea, death is so near. Like, you see dead bodies on the streets every day. Like, dying is not a big deal there. Like,
That's right.
it's like here,
forgot that.
whenever I see people, like, somebody died, it's such a big funeral. Like, in North Korea, dying is almost like where somebody broke their leg, that kind of news. Okay, somebody died. And it's not a, like,
Are there
big deal.
funerals in North Korea?
If the family can, they do have, but a lot of death, we don't even know who they are. So most of
And
the
they just
funerals-
died of starvation
Yeah,
or
so
disease.
just on the street, floating, dead bodies floating like around on the river, and we just don't even know who they are. It's, yeah,
So at 13, how old was your sister?
16 years old.
And the two of you decide we have to go for food.
Yeah. to find
Not we
something.
have to go for freedom.
I mean, you don't know the word freedom. How do you fight? I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't even know what that is. So we didn't fight
I
for
think
the
that's a
freedom.
very, very important thing that people know, that you didn't even hear the word.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you don't hear a word, you don't know it.
No.
People don't realize that. So that in 100 years ago in parts of Africa, if I would say, oh, it's where I come from, it snows. What is snow? So this notion of you never heard the word, people don't realize the human being can only think about what they can think about.
Yeah.
So it was not even in your mind, oh, we'll be free. By the way, which is somewhat of a joke, because China's not free.
Yeah.
But compared to North Korea,
Of
there's no comparison,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
So your mother did not object. I find that fascinating.
Because we were going to die.
Because okay.
Anyway.
And did you have a father?
I did.
Did you tell him?
Yeah.
And he said the same thing? Be
Because-
careful?
Yeah. Just be careful.
So your parents faced this choice: death by starvation, death by being killed by a Korean guard. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So yes, I would escape. So it's North Koreans, when they escape, it's not even like Syrians or Mexicans. We don't have a map. We don't have a phone. Like, we don't have a plan. Like, it's imagine your house just caught a fire. You live in the apartment, like 10th floor. You caught a fire, right? You have no exit. What are you gonna do? The last thing you can do is jumping out of the window and see if you make it or not. That's what we do. We just jump out of the window, and if we make it, we are lucky. If we die, I mean, we're gonna die, burned to death anyway. Why do you bother? So that's the last choice we do, is that.
Right,
And
exactly.
that's why we risk our life for that.
Correct. So what did you do, bribe a guard?
I did not know. I didn't have
Well,
money
how did you
to-
get out?
So I was about to get out, but I got sick. And then my mom took me to hospital. And the doctor said I had appendicitis. They had to remove the appendix in that afternoon. And they removed it without any anesthesia. And that's why...
Without anesthesia?
Yeah.
You were opened up without anesthesia?
That's very common. Like, they cut the bones without anesthesia. Like, it's normal practice
Do
in
they
North Korea.
do they give you alcohol? I mean, what do they do to? I mean,
But-
how could a human being be cut open and not go crazy?
You do. You lose your mind. You faint. You're like conscious so vague. So you come back out of pain and you scream and then you pass out. But for me, like, I don't remember even like screaming. But my mom heard like I screamed like dog that was getting killed by humans. That kind of sound. It's not even human
So
sound.
in North Korea, there's surgery but no anesthesia.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's anesthesia for Communist Party officials.
Oh, they do. I mean,
Yes.
They have everything.
They have everything.
Yeah.
Exactly right. The land of equality. So okay, so you got better.
I did. I mean, I got out 7 days later, but my sister couldn't wait because we were really running out of food. So she left while I was in the hospital. But when she left a note under the pillow at house. So when I got out of the hospital, I found a note that my sister left saying, "Go find this lady at this address." And then as soon as I got out, I walked there with my mother in the morning and then knocked the door and asked her, "We are looking for my sister." And initially she said, "I don't know who your sister is." She was afraid that we were going to report her on her. So I was like, no, it's okay. I'm trying to go to China too. Can you help me too? And she said yes. And she's like, "You can go today." And then it's like, "Do you want to go?"
Why did this woman do it? For money?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
So you don't know even until today?
Now
you don't
I know because she sold me.
She sold you?
Yeah.
Oh, to Chinese?
As a sex slave.
As a sex slave.
That's why she helped me.
So she was making money from the Chinese.
But the thing is, do you know, she had, I think, if I don't misremember, 5 children. She sold them all.
She sold her own children.
And then she later got executed. But if she
executed by the North Koreans?
Regime. But the thing is, if she didn't sell me, I would not be here. There's one person that I need to be grateful for is her.
Right. I want to make that clear. Mm-hmm. Better to be a sex slave in China than to die in North Korea.
Absolutely.
That I agree with you. By the way, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. Life is precious.
Exactly. Yeah. So she did me a favor. Like, I am grateful that she sold me. So she told me.
How did you know that she was executed?
Later, I still work with North Korea. I do rescue mission. I rescue North Korean Defector to freedom. So we have the guards, network there. So following year, she got executed. But thank God she sold all her children.
Did you know that you would be a sex slave in China?
Of course, I did not even know what sex was. I didn't have that vocabulary
that's a good
again.
point, right. So, right. Yeah. And ironically, you didn't know what a slave was because you already were a slave.
Yeah.
But did you know what China was?
I didn't. I knew the name, but I did not know China was a big country or anything. What is the highway? I never even seen the highway. I never even seen the car like with the AC, nothing like that. So I just saw the electricity lights.
How old were you when you got out?
13 years old.
And your sister was with you?
No, sister left me 4 days before.
I know, but I thought you caught up with her.
No, I did not. I lost her for 7 years. I caught up with her in South Korea.
7 years?
Later, yeah.
So you were completely alone in China?
Initially, I went to China with my mother, and then they sold us separately. So that's why I became alone.
She was sold too?
Yeah, she was.
Why didn't your father escape?
Because my father was a man. They cannot settle men, right? You cannot settle men.
There's no reason to help a man escape.
No, only women. Because of the one-child policy, there are 40 million men cannot find wives. They need women.
So you're sold as a sex slave essentially to one man.
No, there's a human trafficking ring in China.
Right. So, okay. Oh, I see. So this wasn't about finding a wife. This is finding a woman.
No, slave. Someone to exploit.
Right.
Yeah, it's
finding a slave. But it's not about finding a wife.
No, Chinese regime does not recognize us as refugees. So we can never be a wife there.
Oh,
we are fugitives. We run around.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So did your father ever reconnect with the family?
I did find him later. I found him. I found my mom eventually.
But your father was still in North Korea.
And then that's why I sent a person to North Korea and brought him to China through the brokers.
You got him to China through the help of whom?
Brokers who sell these women. So through them, so there is a broker wing that getting these girls out and sell them in China. So I use the exact same network.
Why wasn't your father killed by the regime? His whole family escaped.
He was getting tortured, but then they wanted to keep him as a hostage to bring us and catch us.
When your father escaped, was he in a camp? Or was he at home?
He was home, but he was getting tortured and being beaten and constantly torturing all our family to look for us.
And you met your father?
Mm-hmm. I saw him again in China.
Did the torture have an effect on his mind?
Of course, he could not look at human eyes again. Because in prison, they teach them that you are not even animal. So they teach you not to look at the guard's eyes. You're not, such a subhuman. You don't deserve to look at guard's eyes. So he's been so practiced in the prison that he cannot look into human eyes. When he got out, he never looked at my eyes ever again. And he was singing songs like, I'm regretting that I was not a better revolutionary. My father wasn't like that, but he changed. They killed his soul forever. That
they did. They killed his soul forever.
Yeah, his
so
soul left.
You really didn't. Your father died, really.
He died. Yeah, when he got captured by the regime, his spirit died, but in China his body died. And even the last word was when you told me that people who, like in Cuba getting educated, right? They are literate, but why is that? Socialism better. Like then my father was saying, even if in China you're a sex slave, never try to escape to be free. Stay in China and do everything you can to stay here. Never take that
Exactly.
risk. That's what he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long were you in China?
2 years.
From 13 to
15, yeah.
And then what?
And then some of this human trafficker who bombed me still had some humanity in him. He was a gambler. He got broke. And then he was letting me go. But then, like, as a North Korean, where do you go in China?
Right, yes.
Like, literally, you have nowhere to go.
Right.
So we found through North Korean defectors, there's 4 places North Korean women end up in China. One is this, like, the sex slaves to North Korean and Chinese farmers. Second is brothel, the prostitution, where you gave the 10 times a day. Third is where organ harvesting. China is a number 1 organ exporter. So they kill us and take our organs out. The last place actually is a chat room, where they put the girls inside a room and lock them down, and they make them to chat and show their bodies to customers in South Korea. Among those 4 options, the best option I got was chat room.
Of course.
Where I don't get touched by men physically. So in that chat room, turns out those customers were South Koreans.
Right.
And turns out South Korea is not starving and colonized by Americans. So in North Korea, they teach us that South Korea...
so you learned about South Korea
in the chat room.
Being a naked chat woman.
Yeah. What an irony.
We're entering... This is the definition of dystopia, the opposite of utopia.
But this is 21st century.
So we're working on how you got out of China. So go on.
In the chat room, I found out that South Korea is a democracy and free. So, and then I heard there is a missionaries. And I was like, what the heck is a mission? I never heard that. I never even knew the word of religion. And there's some religious people gonna help us if we become Christians. So I called the number, and then he said, okay, we're gonna help you.
Wait, you learned this in a chat room?
Because there's one of North Korean defector women in the same chat room. She heard somewhere that missionaries rescue North Korean women. Okay. And she got the number, and she gave the number to me. So I called the person, and then he said, like, let's pray in the name of Jesus Christ. I was like, what is praying? I never heard such a word, pray. And then, like, okay, do you guys want to make this journey to freedom? And I was like, yes, we do. And they took us to the shelter in China, where we, like, study Bible for a month and memorize Psalms. Like, we do fasting, and we really train to become Christians. And then once we prove our faith to them, that's when they told us, okay, if you want to escape from China, then you have to walk across the frozen Gobi Desert from China to Mongolia with a compass. We cannot take you because, in that desert, chances of not making is like 99%. So they cannot guide us. They just take us to the border in China, give us a compass, so now walk across the desert. And if you're lucky ending up in North Korea, that's in the name of God's grace. At this point, it's not up to us. It's God gotta show mercy and pray in the desert. He's gonna guide you.
Why are these are South Korean Christians?
Yeah, and
why, once you cross the border into Mongolia, could they not just fly you to South Korea?
You don't have paper. We don't have passport. How do you get on an airplane?
Wait, South Korea does not make it easy for a North Korean defector?
They don't.
This is a very important subject that people need to understand. Why not?
Because China is too powerful. China does not want North Koreans to escape from China. All they want is to send us back to North Korea. China has the biggest export trading with China, and their economy heavily relied on China. So they have to listen to Chinese. So South Korea cannot help you if you get out of China on your own.
Right, but if you get to Mongolia, why don't they help you once you're in Mongolia?
That's when they helped us. So
but you said that 99% of the people die
because of the crossing Mongolian desert, in the Gobi Desert from China to Mongolia, nobody can come with us. Literally in the desert, there are like 16 wire fences. A lot of them all electrified fences. If you touch, you die. They're so highly electrified. And
who put those fences up? China?
We don't know which gods, but it's a border. So that's why they have to put the wire fences.
So is it to prevent Chinese from leaving or prevent Mongolians from going to China?
I don't think anybody would dare to get into Gobi Desert. There's so many animals too. They're gonna eat you.
Oh,
there.
oh my God.
So.
How long were you in the Gobi Desert?
We were lucky only one day there because it was like minus 40 degrees in February in 2009.
Who's we?
We were in a team, 8 people with 1 toddler. So you cannot go in the desert on your own. It's a lot of animals. You have to be a team to defend yourself if you ever get attacked by animals.
Was it 8 women?
1 man and 7 women, and 1 baby.
What nationality was the man?
We were all North Koreans. We were all North Korean defectors.
Was he Christian?
We all were Christian.
Oh, you were all Christian by then.
There. Yeah.
Did you really believe in Christianity,
Absolutely.
or you did it to escape?
No, you do. Later, I did not become one after a while but then it's like thing. I was so desperate, right?
I'm just asking. I think it was the right decision.
But the thing is, I don't think even I had the energy to fake it because I was so desperate. Like if they asked me to believe in a rock, I would have believed in a rock.
Correct.
Because anything that would save me, I would have believed in.
That's right.
And so I don't think I didn't even have to fake it. I really, truly believed. Anything rescues me, I'm going to believe that. I'm going to pray for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, by the way, just comment, I would say many American university students believe in rocks.
Oh, really?
So,
what do they do?
So your point is very well taken.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm only slightly exaggerating.
Okay.
So what happened after a day in Mongolia?
We got caught by Mongolian soldiers.
And then?
And then they said they were going to send us back to China and back to North Korea.
The Mongolians said that?
Yeah. So they put the knives, like put your hands up.
But they knew if they sent you back to North Korea, you'd be killed. And they didn't care?
They did not care. So
beautiful world.
Exactly.
Right. So what happened?
So when North Koreans escaped, it's during the Holocaust, right? The Jewish people would try to kill themselves before sent to gas chamber.
Right.
So like that, we have the poisons, we have the knives with us. So we were all trying to kill ourselves in front of the Mongolian soldiers. The last minute, they stopped us. And then, but with the team that came after us, they went too far. So one of the lady that we knew, she swallowed the poison. But later we learned these guys had no intention to send us back. They just wanted to have fun with us.
So they were sadists.
Yeah, to have fun.
So it was fun to watch you suffer and try to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it certainly does substantiate my earlier point about human nature. So still, how did you get out?
After that, all that thing we were trying to kill ourselves, they eventually stopped our game and then took us to Mongolian base, soldier base. And then they called the South Korean embassy. South Korean embassy came and then they got our information and make sure that we are North Koreans. They did the interrogation on us. After 2-3 months in the detention center in Ulaanbaatar, they took us to South Korea.
So they did help you in some way, South Korea?
Yeah, in Mongolia they did, not in China. Once we made it to Mongolia, that's when they helped.
Did you make friends with any of these other 7 women?
I did, yeah. But the thing is, North Koreans, we learn not to trust
That's
very
right.
early on.
That's so true.
So it's hard to be
So
real friends.
among the many things you didn't know was the word friend.
We have a comrade.
Comrade, which has nothing to do with friend.
Yeah, so we are...
It was even Comrade Kim.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Comrade Stalin.
Yeah.
So you were flown to Seoul or somewhere else?
Incheon Airport. From Mongolia
Incheon?
to Incheon Airport. Yeah.
And you then what? Because you have no money, you have no relatives, you have no contacts.
But not only that, they had to take us to hospital first. Because in our entire life, we've never been medically examined. So we could have bring disease to South Korean population. So we had to be sealed from South Korean population. First place they take you out of the airport is like they using the separate gate, take us to hospital, and then ask me to pee. I'm like, I never peed in the cup. Like, why do I have to pee? They check your health status and if you carry any disease. And then once I'm cleared, then they put me in the interrogation center for 2 months. That's when they really going down to you. Are you a spy? Are you actually the person who you are saying? And there's like, why don't you recite the revolutionary, the oath that every North Korean must remember? Like, that if you're North Korean, you all know these things, right? You remember by heart. So we recite all of them, who were our teachers, where we lived, our school. We have to draw a map for them. After this vigorous interrogation, then that's like, okay, if you're proven not spy, you can go into re-education. It's like kind of camp where they take us there and then teach us that Americans are not bastards. Americans are not colonizing South Korea. That Korean war started by Kim Il-sung, not by Americans. And tell us that what democracy is. And also tell us how to take a bus. I mean, we are like coming from different planet. We don't even know what coffee is. We don't even know, what anything, like what AC is, right? So we really like big adult kids, like toddlers, have no clue about the world. So they teach us, what is a bank? Because we don't know what bank is. What is, shopping mall? What is a supermarket? Literally going from every single subject and teach us there.
Okay, what happens next?
After that 3 months, they send you out to the world, and then that's where you figure out your life. So
And that's a challenge, isn't it?
Of course it's challenging.
Because you never were free, but freedom comes with responsibility.
It does. Now you have to work, and you have to make living, and you have to think for yourself. And
was that uncomfortable?
It was painful. It wasn't just uncomfortable. It was painful. I literally was. I never knew how to think. Right. I mean, learned thinking was hard. So every time in South Korea in the beginning, I think for 5 minutes. I get so exhausted from thinking. I have to take a break for 5 hours. And the next day, I'm okay. Today I'm gonna think 10 more minutes. I literally had to do that. Thinking. So they were saying, now what do you want to do in South Korea? I'm like, do I have to know? Why can't you just tell me what to do? In North Korea, when you're born, your life was determined for you before your birth, based on what my great grandfather did. And in South Korea, suddenly they say, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, do I have to know? Because in North Korea, nobody asks you, what do you think? They tell you, your favorite color is like red. It's a revolutionary color. And South Korea, learning thinking for myself. That was very exhausting.
So did you have an apartment?
We got this government housing for the first year or 6 months. But I rented a small, underground studying
What work
house.
did you do?
I worked in dollar store called Daiso. It's a dollar store. I was working at the wedding, the server, a wedding, waitress. And and I was studying too. So I was studying and working at the same time.
How do South Koreans treat North Koreans?
They have a lot of stereotypes of North Korean people. So they say, because you're from communist country, you must not work hard. And you must now understand free
Well, were
market.
they wrong? Because you're saying we weren't taught to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
But you did work hard because you had You had to find food.
Exactly.
You worked as a slave, but you didn't have to think.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. What are the stereotypes?
That they don't understand the culture. Like they don't know the way of that Western mind thinking that they have, especially with the men, right? North Korean men don't know how to treat women. Every day women get beaten by men in North Korea, like their husbands. And when they go to South Korea, they don't even know what consent is. So a lot harder for men to adjust than women. And the accent is a bit more aggressive. We don't know the words, right? Like friends. And we don't know so many things. So South Koreans does look down on us like a second citizens. That we are not a full human for them.
Did a South Korean man want to date you, take you for coffee, or?
Yeah, South Korean men actually like North Korean women, because North Korean women are traditional. The South Korean women don't want to have kids. They don't want to even get married. But North Korean women still think having children and having family is important. So actually women have much better time in South Korea because South Korean men, they're conservative men, North Korean women, but then North Korean men are too rough for South Korean women. And North Korean women also want the South Korean man who is very gentle and nice.
And makes a living.
Yeah, so as a North Korean man in South Korea, very hard to find a partner. It's really hard for them.
How many North Koreans have made it to South Korea?
South Koreans are a lot, over 30,000. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot and not a lot.
Yeah, it's 75 years.
Yeah, exactly, in 75 years.
Yeah.
So, you are now how old? What, about 17?
I am 27.
No. At this point,
by then
at this story.
I was still 15 or 16. South Korean age was 17.
Yeah, 17. So, right. So, you're 17, alone. Did you make any friends?
I tried. And then as soon as they found out that I was North Korean, they literally called me in the middle of the night. Like, why are you a spy? Why are you friends with me? So the discrimination was impossible.
Really?
Yeah. So
what about a man friend?
I mean, they were fine.
Was that possible?
They were fine, but by then I was so traumatized by men in China.
I would think so.
I would never date anybody. I would not have any romantic.
I'm surprised that didn't remain a permanent part of your life. Thank God it didn't.
Exactly. It took some time. I wouldn't say that it took one day, right? But I think it took but remembering my father was a man who was my hero. Like, he was the most selfless person I've ever met. I think when you're in the safe place, you can have perspective, right? And you don't have to think for your survivor. So when I was being in America, being safe, and thinking about all the good men that I met in journey, that really helped.
Okay, so how did you get from South Korea to America?
So I had a speech that I gave in Ireland, Dublin, where it's an international conference. I gave my first speech there.
Why did they invite you?
So this is called the One Young World Conference. They bring all the world young leaders from all around the world. And they asked North Korea to send their delegation because it's like your youth Olympic for the youth leaders. And North Korea says we can only send 3. It's like why? Because they have to spy on each other. So if it's 3 of us here, I spy on you. You spy on Megan, Megan spies on me. So if I'm being so nice, I'm not going to report on you, but I know that I'm being watched by her. But then you're also watching her. So we are being spied, you're spying. So they say, at least you got to send 3 to spy on each other. So they said, okay, then why don't we sponsor 2 people and you sponsor 1 person to come to this conference that world joining? And they said no. And that's okay, then we are going to find the North Korean defectors. And that's how they found me. Because North Korea...
Were you officially a North Korean delegate?
There I was. So I was in North...
Were you?
Yeah.
North Korea would not accept you.
No. So I was not representing North Korean the regime.
You weren't. But you were a North Korean young person there.
Yeah.
So you gave a speech in Ireland.
Yeah.
And?
In
what language?
In English.
Where did you learn English?
I taught myself.
Well, your English is superb. You taught yourself in South Korea? Mm-hmm. You're an exceptional human being.
Oh, thank you.
No. It's not even a compliment. It's just a fact. So you gave the speech in Ireland, and then what?
That was viewed by like almost a billion people. That broke the internet. So that's when the Penguin Random House called me. It's like, we're calling from Penguin Random House. Like, why is it called penguin, like the bird calling me, right? I have no idea what Penguin Random House is. And they want to write a book. So my publisher was in New York and agent was in New York. That brought me to America to write a book.
Oh my